Hi, welcome to another episode of Walking the Path. Today I'm walking a very special path on the south side of the Isle of Wight. I'm in an area that's very protected called the Undercliff. It's a bit of a secretive path actually. If you don't know it's here, you would never find it. Below me I'm on like a plateau, and you can see there the sea, and in the distance there is Shanklin and Sandown. To the other side is a very high North Cliff, and it creates here a microclimate. It's a bit of a mission to get here, and I'm a bit hot and sweaty because I've had to work quite hard, walk fast to get here and to film and get back in time. I've chosen to come here because I want to talk about fear, and I had a terrifying experience here a few years ago, and I want to share that story. I could have gotten here much quicker today if I'd have parked in the car park up above the cliff there, and I was planning that, but when I was there the other day I got cautioned by the police, who stopped me and said it wasn't allowed. I did explain to them that it was 2 minutes 30-second drive at low speed from my mother's house to get there in a straight road, and that I wanted to be in an isolated area to walk rather than the town, and that I wasn't breaking any of the rules, but they told me it gives out the wrong message. The challenge is, of course, we're getting a lot of mixed messages at the moment. Just the very next day I heard the Minister of Health saying that it is permissible to drive up to 5 minutes, park and walk if you want to be somewhere more alone. The very same day when I was shopping down the town for my mother, someone come running round the corner and run straight into me. No mask, no gloves, because they weren't looking. For myself, I'm doing all I can to use common sense and common courtesy, being aware of other people around me, giving them their space. The challenge is, of course, it's really not common practice, which is why we have rules. But it's difficult to have rules for everything and for them to apply to everyone. I wanted to come here and talk about fear. Behind me here, maybe you can see it, move the camera around. No, not quite. There's a really scary cave. And I was here some years ago and I had such an experience of fear. There are two real types of fear. There's real fear, and that's the fear we have when we're too close to the edge of the cliff, when there's danger, when we're confronted with a wild animal. And the coronavirus is a bit of a wild beast, a dangerous beast that we need to be very careful of. It's good to have some fear on that. Then there's another type of fear, false fear. And false fear, the fear stands for false expectations appearing real. And that's when we're projecting into the future that something's going to happen, but it's not a reality, it's only a possibility. Such a lot of people in fear at the moment. I did a Walk in the Path video, not a presentation, a few days ago. And somebody contacted me afterwards and said, "Brian, it's going to be okay. I could see the fear on your face." I may have looked fearful. I really wasn't. I faced my own fear last year when I nearly died from having blood clots on my lungs. And I'm really not fearful at the moment. What I am is deeply concerned for people. Not just those that will possibly be ill and die of COVID-19. I'm fearful for people, worried for people of the effect it's going to have on their lives in terms of the isolation and the lockdown. Every day we get a reminder of how many people have died of COVID-19. The count goes up day by day. And what we're not being told about is those people that are dying of a consequence of the lockdown and being depressed, being anxious. When we are fearful, we release the stress chemical cortisol, and it suppresses the immune system, and it makes us more and more vulnerable and of course unstable mentally. We're not in a good place, and emotionally. I phoned my sister and she told me about someone who becomes so consumed with fear that he shot himself and shot his whole family before that. Last year when I was unwell, I stopped exercising, and then this year with the virus I decided I really need to do everything I can. I need to take responsibility for my health and well-being and get my energy, immune system up so that I'm robust. And I started running a great deal, and I hadn't done that for the last year. And a couple of days ago I run along the seafront and I run up this steep hill called the Cascade, and I got to the top and it really made me cough because of the exercise. And I saw this lady in front turn around and look at me, and then she went off, and she was about maybe 50 meters from me. And then the next day I got an email from this lady, I don't really know her, saying, I heard you cough in the town, and I know you travel a great deal with your work, and you've probably picked up the virus, and you should be at home because you're infecting the people of the town. And no, I'm absolutely fine. And I think she was fearful for the people, but she read something into a situation that wasn't real. I take my temperature every day. So we need to be careful of false fear. And that's a story I want to share. And you can see the cave up above me here. And I'm going to turn the camera around. Let's see if we can get up to it, and I'll share the story with you. Here we go. So, look at this. Oh, can you see it? It's all these mad carvings in the, look at this one. It's like a spooky guy. It's all these mad carvings here. It goes all the way around. And, there was a lot of smuggling here on this part of the Isle of Wight over hundreds of years. People have lived here obviously a very long time. This cave has been naturally formed, but then people have done these carvings in it. I was told about this place years ago, and I came here, and in the woodland down here I built a teepee, and I lived here for some time to clear my mind. I went through some challenging times years ago and wanted to come here and get my balance living in the nature. And other people found the teepee I built, and they would come here and stay the night and treat it like a lodge. And some of them would go fishing, catch the fish, cook it at the teepee, and we'd all leave it in good condition for each other. And it was quite large. It took me a long time to build it. And then I moved away from the Isle of Wight, and I went to live on the mainland. And when I was writing my goal mapping book, I got to a chapter where I wanted to talk about fear, actually, and I was blocked, and it wasn't coming out onto the page. And I decided to come here and back to my old teepee and to write. And there are two ways of getting to this place, and one is to come along the beach when the tide's low and come up the cliff and into this area where it's on the plateau, and the other way is to come down the steps that come down the cliff a little way along, and they're down like a ravine, and there's a waterfall, and you can come down, there's a lot of them, down all the steps, and then you can come along and get to this area. And so I went along the beach on this occasion and up and into where the teepee was, and when I got there it was gone. It was gone because people had found it and they'd used it as a party place, and the whole area had been trashed And it made me very sad, because not only had they trashed the area, they'd left all their trash there. And so I set about clearing it up. I felt really responsible that it was me that built the teepee. It had attracted people to this place, and then they had not treated it in a good way. And I started walking round in a circle, picking up all the litter and doing my own little ceremony to sort of clean and clear the area and put all the litter into a big pile in the centre. And I sort of lost track in this exercise, and before I knew it, it was dark. And I wasn't planning to be there long. I was just going to come there and write in my journal, and I'd been there quite some hours, and it was dark and I wasn't prepared for it. I had no coat with me, I had no torch with me, my phone was low on battery, there's no signal here, and I just I thought, right, I've got to get home now, because it's dark and it's difficult to find your way. And I went down the cliff to where the beach is, and the tide had come in, and I realised I was cut off. I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to backtrack and go round the other long way and get to the steps and up the cliff. And these steps go up a gully, a ravine, and there's a waterfall. And before you get to the steps, it's like a plateau, an open area. And it took me quite a while to get to there, trying to find my way in the dark and stumbling. There isn't really an established path. And then I get to the plateau and I look, and the steps have been washed away by the winter storms, and they're gone. And I realise I can't get out of this place. The tide's in, the steps are gone, and that I'm stuck there for the night, and I've got no torch or nothing. And so I go back to the area where I'd been piling up the rubbish, and I try to settle down, and fear started to creep into my mind. And in the treetops, I could hear this noise. It's like a shh. It was like some sort of rattling, hissing noise, and I got up close to the tree that I was sat against, and I was feeling really anxious about it all. And it seemed like the noise was moving in the trees above me, going from one tree to another. Shh. And I kept looking over behind me at this cave, which I knew was here. And I started to imagine that the noise was coming from the cave. I got myself into such a fearful state over the period of about an hour, I reckon. And I ran to try and see if there was a way up the cliff where the steps used to be. And I was in such a blind panic, I run over a cliff. And thankfully I landed on some brambles, a bush. And although I was scratched a little, it's padded my fall. And I looked and I saw that the tide had actually started to go out, and that I could get home round the corner. And so I started running before it was sort of too late, or the noise would get me. And when I got halfway round the point to safety, I realised I'd left my phone and everything back where I'd been sat clearing up the rubbish. And I just decided, no, I'm leaving it, I'm not going back for it. And I run, and I got to the nearest town and to my friend's house. The next day I went back along the beach at low tide to get my phone. And when I got back to where the teepee was, the steps were there. They hadn't been washed away in a storm at all. It was all just in my mind. It was just in my imagination. And of course, here's the cave, and it's not such a bad place at all. And there's beautiful woodland, and there was a lot of false fear in my mind. With the coronavirus, the fear is real. It's a beast, and we all need to take care. What will not help us in this time is that we start to hold a false fear, false expectation appearing real about the future. I think it was King Solomon that said, when the people lack vision, they perish. And if we lack hope right now, if we lack vision and hope, we will we will perish if we don't have that vision of good times to come in the future, a picture of promise. For several weeks now since all of this started, I've been concerned about the after effects of the lockdown and people feeling mentally and emotionally challenged, and the damage they're doing to themselves physically, and of course the economic situation. And I've been saying to people, the piece of survival information that's quite often missing is around the importance of staying positive, because that positive thinking not only gives us a positive feeling, but it releases the serotonin, which boosts our immune system. And thankfully, I'm hearing more and more experts mentioning this point on TV now. And today there was a doctor interviewed on the news, and he was saying it's really important that we don't go into fear, because we release the cortisol, and what we want to do is to stay positive, so we're releasing serotonin, boosting the immune system. And when the news reader asked this doctor that was being interviewed, oh, that's great advice, and how do you recommend people do that? He didn't have an answer. But there are lots of people that have answers about how you stay positive. It's something I've been teaching for many years, and I am really recommending to all of you that are still watching this after 16 minutes that you go create a goal map, because it is the best way that I know of holding a positive picture of promise for your future. Create your goal map in words and pictures, so it stimulates both sides of your brain, and as you stimulate your brain cells in a positive way, they release serotonin. That's why a positive thought gives you a positive feeling. And when you create your goal map, it will do this. And once you've created your map of your picture of promise for the future, you thriving for the future, or your reasons to do well for the future, then make sure you print out your map and look at it once a day. And as you do that, it will stimulate your brain cells to make connections, release serotonin, and what's more, help you to notice opportunities of where you can turn this crisis into some sort of positive opportunity, a chance to do something different with your life perhaps, a new direction for the future, a new way for all of us to work and live, hopefully in a more balanced way that creates more balance and harmony within the planet and humanity. So whatever your cave of fear may be, mine was a shh noise, whether your cave of fear is debt, or it's the virus itself and dying, or that life may be miserable for a long time to come, understand it's the darkness very often that frightens us, and we each need to find this light within ourselves, and with that help to illuminate our hopes for the future. Capture it all in a goal map, my friends. It's free to go and do it. I'm not asking anyone for anything. Go to goalmapping.com, use the online software, download the paper templates, or ask one of the many coaches teaching goal mapping if they would help you to hold that beacon of light for your future and shine bright. It's a long walking the path from me today, but I felt it was important to share it all. I hope it's of benefit to you. Stay well, be safe, live long and prosper. I wish you well. Blessings and bye for now.